to the Putnam County Physical Services Committee meeting. Please join Legislator Crowley in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Legislator Castellano.
Present.
Legislator Crowley.
Present.
Chairperson Elner.
Here. I'd like to make a motion, I'm making a motion here for the acceptance, to accept the minutes of our July 23rd and August 20th meetings.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to go out of order here for the agenda. I would like to take care of item 16 first, which is the approval of grant applications for state municipal facilities grant for veterans. So Carl, if you would be so kind.
Can I
Yes.
ask a question just for the legislative council? Does the committee need to vote on it to go out of order?
Yeah,
This came up at another
Oh,
meeting.
that's my
and I was-
fault. Sorry. I said
Changing the
no.
agenda should be my motion.
Okay,
make a
I move to change the agenda
My
and
fault.
address item 16 first. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. It came up at another meeting. It was
Gotcha.
highly inappropriate just to change the order this one week, not ours.
Welcome, Carl and Barbara.
So this is a request. We have received notice that we are eligible for $50,000 from Assemblyman Matt Slater. Very generously is willing to pay for a Quonset hut for the Veterans Museum at Veterans Memorial Park. So I'm requesting permission to apply.
Any questions?
Can you tell us about it? Can you tell us about the project, the hut?
So it's going to be the Veterans Museum.
Yeah.
So the Quonset hut is a military-style building. So it's,
Yeah, well, they're repurposing where the museum is right now, so we need another location to have the museum. And we've been working on it for a while, looking for how we were gonna fund it, and Assemblyman Slater came up with this idea to give us a grant. We're still gonna need to, this is just for the hut itself, the inside, we're still gonna have to fund and do that. And we'd like to get it open as soon as possible. I know this doesn't work quickly. The one advantage of where it's going to be now is that it's going to be more visible. It's going to be right, not directly behind, but over near where the Gold Star Motor Monument is. So rather than being off in the background where very few people came to visit it, when we had special events, we bring people over there, but it wasn't that well used. I mean, we have some fantastic artifacts in that museum that we donated over the years. And it's going to be a chance to really display them and get them out to the public.
so it will be Four Seasons. It will be,
Right, I see you were kind enough to give us a drawing. It's 30 feet across, looks like about 15 foot high. Just can't tell how long it is, and obviously Quonset huts are military style. Any other questions by the committee? Fellow legislators? Legislator Yonkers got the floor.
Carl, do you have an idea of what the total estimated cost of finishing, start to finish, what it would be?
No.
Through the chair, the 50 should pay for a slab, electric, HVAC, and insulation. So we should be able to open it up, open doors, fully functional.
With the $50,000? Thank you.
Including the closet kit,
Thank you.
Just a comment, this came up during the capital projects committee meeting, and we had a lengthy discussion, and it was approved, and my only comments were that this is wonderful that we can house the artifacts. It's gonna require funding. I think it deserves to be curated and maintained and staffed at some point, and also, you know, I look at $50,000 and I wish for more programs for veterans. That was my point at the capital projects. It's not a capital project, it's programs, but, you know, we look at the rates of suicide and the needs of our veterans, and we can always use more for programming.
Any other questions? Okay. I move to approve, to grant permission to apply for a grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, Carl. Drive safe. Okay, we're going to go back on the agenda. Item 4 here is a discussion regarding our current resolution 139 of 2007 for inclusion in the agricultural district. Anybody on the committee have anything? Legislator Crowell.
I wanted to discuss in 2011 when the state decided to include equine, are we able to amend our current resolution to change the soil, I guess, qualifications for farm animals and equine? Neil?
Mr. Tolman, if you'd be so kind as to come.
I'm sorry, if you repeat the question, what is it?
So in 2011, when they changed and included equine, and I would like to know if we would be able to amend our resolution to change the soil qualifications when you're dealing with livestock and equine.
I think the problem is that if you go back to 2021, I believe there were 2 applications made that were denied, or 2 of the applications were denied, one of which, and that went back to the 50% rule. And one of the 2 was denied even though it was a equine operation. So there's not, let's just say I wish there was more in the files about the deliberations. But there's only, I've just been able to find bits and pieces of what they were thinking. But what you have are a lot of decisions that were made on that 50% rule, and I found at least 1 or 2 that applied specifically to equestrian operations. And I know it's not a good, you know, I think I started when I started last month or July when I was here, I started with that. I actually pointed that out, saying this is a problem because. But again, I think we have to talk about it, try and find some way to accommodate them. I've talked to Commissioner Fury and Barossa, and we're just going to have to figure out how to try to do something. But we're not really sure what we can do at this point.
So I guess my second question is then how, if other farms in the past haven't met the soil quality, how are they passed through and put through the state if they didn't meet the criteria?
I've never seen in a past resolution or with an application that was approved, I've never seen any language that says, well, they don't have the 50%, but that's okay. I've never seen any language in any of the deliberations that was phrased like that. I've only seen it brought up as a reason for denying the application. I've never seen it come up saying, well, they don't have it, but that's okay.
So the state has accepted applications though in the past where they haven't had it, correct?
When the state gets the application, I think they're essentially just asking if you passed it, and then where's the seeker review? And then that seems to be the only 2 criteria left for the state to talk about or to look at.
Would it, I know you have to apply for a seeker at the end of it once it gets passed through the legislature. Would that be something that would be more helpful to do in the beginning so that there aren't any roadblocks? Kind of when it gets to the ad board, it's kind of been vetted, everything's been done, and we know that it's appropriate and fits the criteria.
Yes, there's definitely a lot that we can build into the process earlier in the process that will help keep this from happening again at the end. We could definitely, specifically with the seeker review, and this is just me, this is just my take, having read a fair amount of AML 25AA and law review articles and lots of commentary, it seems that a lot of the assumption is that a lot of the seeker process has already been done before it gets to the county. So, and if that's the case, that's fine. If not, we can build something into the process. And I've been talking to Commissioner Barossa about that. Like, if we're gonna do it on the county level, how would we do it? And I think we're on the right track. I think we can do it that way.
Any other questions, comments?
I just want to
Legislator
clarify, I think
Montgomery?
it's fair to say that applications have been approved that didn't meet the 50%. My question is, was the Ag Board invited to this meeting by the committee? No?
It's a public meeting, so,
Well, it's.
yeah, and they were aware of it.
Well, you're the committee and you're the chair, and it's common courtesy. They're an important board in this process. I would think they would have been invited to give input.
Well, this is the first of many discussions I'm sure we're going to
Okay.
have, so, but,
I just, if something needs to be changed on the state level, I'm more than happy to talk to our state representatives to see if we can put something forward there. I think, you know, this time in our culture and society is where food security is a huge issue. It's not time to deny, you know, applications the way we did last month. There were some really good applications that were denied, you know, based on a sentiment, because that's what this resolution is, it's a sentiment. It's not a law.
I respectfully disagree.
We'll look up the
and
definition for resolution and a law, because it's a sentiment.
If,
We had that discussion about the police policy review resolution that we sent to the state, and our legislative council indicated that we passed a resolution, it's just a sentiment. It doesn't mean that we have to enforce it, and we don't enforce it. But we're gonna enforce this, but not police policy review? I don't get it.
Neil, would you care to comment?
I think that the resolution was a state requirement so that the municipality would have a chance to reflect on the state law and implement it as best they could at the local level. And that, my understanding is that was required of the county to come up with something that they felt was a good reflection of the existing state law, and that's how we got the resolution. Obviously, we still need to work on it, but I don't think there's, when I go through this, I never, in all these, this has been 6 months now, I've never run into anybody who's not for farming. I've never run into anybody who's not trying to get this done. I think, but we are, I haven't even run into anybody who's happy with the resolution. So we have a lot in common on this, but so we have to think about, all right, well, what's the way forward? How do we figure out? And if we have to go to the state, we go to the state, but.
Yes, Legislator Montgomery.
It's just what's glaring on this is how the Putnam County Legislature, the majority, chooses to enforce some resolutions and not others.
Well, I'm just going to discuss what we have right now on the table, which is how do we improve, change, modify this particular, I'm going to say concept. Legislator Yonke.
First, Neil, thank you very much for your work. I attended the board meeting that the votes took place at, and there's a lot of confusion. Right? But for the first time in the 8 years I've been on this legislature, someone explained what the rules were, what the definitions that we needed to follow were. And there's no doubt that in the past, we've allowed properties into this ag district that probably shouldn't belong there. I can tell you that my town board in the town of Southeast, the majority of the town board, I've only spoken to three, but 3 out of 3 members are in favor of abolishing the ag district, and that anybody who wishes to start a farm or farm in Southeast come to the town and deal with the planning board and deal with the zoning regulations that are already in place at the town level. And moving forward, if we do decide to make changes to the requirements, I would surely want to have a notification of property owners within 500 feet, much like we do with zoning boards,
A butters list.
that everybody within 500 feet is aware of what's taking place in their neighborhood and have a right to have some input in it. But I appreciate the work that you're doing, because I know it's not been easy.
Well, it's something we gotta figure out. We're getting there. We'll get it done.
And part of this whole thing is, and Neil and I have spent countless hours going through this, and the history is that the intent of the state has always been to protect existing farms from unreasonable local laws.
When they're in the district, once they're in the district.
Well, the whole concept of an ag district was to protect existing farms from unreasonable local laws. So part of that leads us to believe that you have your farm, and now is the town changing their laws and their codes to make it more difficult for the farm?
Right.
Because, as Paul said, the first step should be contact your town. Because the other part of this is, from all the law review articles, et cetera, is that once you're in the district, the town loses a significant amount. And we had some people who were running improper commercial enterprises, et cetera, so we're not even going to get into that. So this absolutely has to be revisited. One of the things that we're trying to put together is a meeting to improve the application, which can be done separately from the resolution here.
There's a lot of things that point to earlier action actions being taken at the local level. There definitely is. You know, there's a couple of big sticking points when you go. One is the seeker process, which we're not really sure how we're going to do that yet. One is the 50% rule, and to what degree was it applied, and was it applied equitably? And then there's the other big question, which is that in order to be in the ag district, you're required to be a commercial operation. And
But every applicant was in a residential
every applicant's in a
neighborhood.
residentially zoned, is in a residential zone. So that's what kind of kicked the whole thing off for me, was they require, I'm just going to repeat myself, they require you to be a commercial operation to be in the ag district. But these applications are coming from residentially zoned parcels. So that's something that needs to get worked out with the local zoning and planning boards. I don't think that the county's in a position to go around and start
Spot zoning.
you get into spot zoning, you get into all kinds of bad stuff, yeah.
Legislator Montgomery.
I think the best thing that we could do is commission an agricultural farmland protection review. We haven't done one since 2004. It's pretty outdated, but I suggest everybody read that, the one that we have on file. It's informative. It's got a lot of great information about past practices and mission statements and executive summaries, but it's from 2004. So if we're talking about how to make a plan, making towns responsible, I think we should,
Good suggestion.
I'm sure there's grant money from ags and farms in New York State. We can come up with some money to do that.
Questions, comments from any other legislators? Yes, Legislator Castellano.
Yeah, I was just going to bring in my opinion. I totally believe in home rule, the zoning, the planning. I was on the zoning board for 8 years, and I just don't think the system that we have in place right now is fair to the towns. You have to revisit this, and I think what Legislator Yankee said about notifying the neighbors would be huge, just as they do on a zoning board application, as we used to do in the past. We'd hear from all the neighbors who want to have some say in it. So there's a lot to be worked on here, and I hope, unfortunately, I won't be here next year to work on it with you guys, but hopefully we can get it started and take another look at it. But I'm a firm believer in home rule, local zoning, local planning. Make sure we got that part right.
Any comments from the audience? Anyone wishing to speak from the audience?
I would. George Calcanini, I'm the attorney for
Mr. Hanovich, who owns one of the farms that's
Welcome, George.
at issue. Welcome. Thanks for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. An issue came up about amending a resolution. It's a county resolution. The county can amend its resolutions at any time. So the problem is your soil test being a disqualifying event. The solution is change it, amend your resolutions. It's the only issue I want to point out at this point. But I'd be happy to take questions.
If I may. So again, our resolution is a derivative of state law, and the phrase that keeps coming up is where the state law requires predominantly prime or agriculturally viable soils.
But it's one factor, not a
I'm just
disqualifying
saying,
event.
well, it's a must, it's a one factor, but I think it's one of the only ones that says must. And they must fall into these soil groups. And they didn't come up with that at the county level. They're trying to stick with what they read from the state level, which is that key phrase, predominantly, which gives us 50%. And if we've actually said, well, why didn't they make it 51%? But, okay, but that's where we get stuck just saying, well, change it. Because you can't, because then you're going to be in violation of state law.
I've
Yes.
read that many, many times now, and it's must, but prior to that, it's considerations. It's preceded by considerations.
So it's a consideration that you must consider, but it doesn't say you have to.
No,
have that
it's the must.
50%.
The must applies to the type of soils that it has to have. The parcel must have 50% of the soil groups 1 through 6.
And that's
Your
That's pretty
Go back
uniform.
and read it. You need to reread it.
I've read it,
You're
sir.
misinterpreting
Sir,
it.
I've read it.
He's an attorney too. And the law department has also reviewed that and said that, and other counties follow it the same way also.
I would like
As a
to
must.
answer that. It's just to
Can we
be on
get into
record
his
that
name?
when
You please state your name.
Dr. Hanovich.
Dr. Dan Hanovich.
And your farm is Ridge Ranch?
When I went into this, I had no idea that the harder part of farming was going to be the legislative part of it. But, the alternative to going through all this and getting into ag land district, is selling my property, which is 114 acres, to developers who have already approached. And if I can't be a farm, that's the alternative to what this ends up being. And I'm not the only farm that's going through that. I've worked really hard to build what we have with my family, and to keep going back to this interpretation of considerations and following that a resolution is a law. When I spoke to the USDA, and their bold, open statement to me was to sell the farm, that Putnam County is the worst county in all of the counties for farms, and that I have no chance of getting through this. It's one of the hardest statements I've ever gotten from someone about anything. Is
Well,
that
one of the
Well,
reasons.
the overriding
One of the
concern-
reasons that we're the worst county is maybe 10% of the entire county has viable soil. The other thing, Paul, just 1 second, is what is the unreasonable restriction that you need to have exempted from? What's the problem?
it's
The whole concept of it shouldn't be governed by the local building inspector. Every time a neighbor complains, farms aren't residences, they're not the homeowner digging in their garden. A farm needs to have greater freedoms than the normal residents to operate, and that's why we have the statute to promote and protect the farmers from that micromanaging by the locale.
If you think, I'm sorry, I'm just,
With Paul and then.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions just through the chair. First, I'd like to point out that in the resolution, which follows the state law, it says the following factors shall be considered. And the bullet point is that each parcel must contain at least 50% of prime farmland and/or statewide important soils, right? So that's what it says. My question first, is your property, how long has your farm existed?
this is now our third year of being a farm.
Third year. So with all due respect to your right to farm, your neighbors have a right to their enjoyment, their quiet enjoyment of their properties as well. If nobody's telling you that you can't farm, but you have to until this goes through, you have to work within the boundaries of your planning and zoning codes.
That's why
Is that not unreasonable?
Well,
wasn't-
it's actually contrary to the policy of the state to encourage farms, because if you eliminate all your farms, you're gonna get real hungry
But we're
sooner or
not-
later.
We're not eliminating
And-
any farm.
And the state is to
Yes, when you
protect.
drive farms out, you do,
Okay, New York State,
endanger
New
the
York
food
State
sources.
is the third, New York State is number 3 in terms of production of farming. We're the 3rd largest agricultural state. The intent and what the state did was to protect farmland, not necessarily farms. And what we have here is we're going around is, he purchased land in a residential neighborhood, and now he's trying to convert it to a commercial enterprise in a residential neighborhood.
almost all farmland is zoned in a residential zone. You're never gonna have a farm in a downtown commercial district, or almost never. They're almost always in a residential district.
And not to, I mean, my land was a farm 75 years ago, and for 100+ years prior to that. There's farm equipment all over the property. There's engraved concrete from 1916. It was a pig farm for as long as I could look back, as long as that property's been there. And yet, I can't farm it at this stage. It's been untapped farmland for its entire existence in this county for as long as I could look back. And all I'm trying to do is just get it back into being.
Right, but again, what is the town not allowing you to do that you want to do?
I think the bigger thing,
For example, one of the members here, and I forget which one, excuse me, but indicated you should have to go to the town, and the implication was for a site plan. That's very hostile to farming, because having to go through a site plan review is almost a disqualifying event for a small farm. It's too expensive.
I don't know how you can have it both ways. I'm going to develop 114 acres, but I don't want to do and to do that without a site plan or without a seeker process. I don't know, how does that, I don't get that. How does that not really go over the
Because the state law
town's
requires the
head?
right to farm, and the state law implies, state law implies that there's a right to farm. That's why we established these ag districts, and that's why in that state law, there's a provision for if your farm causes some harm or injury to public health and safety, then there's a provision in the state law to correct it.
I respectfully disagree.
Read it,
I do.
305, section 305, I'll read it to you. This section ensures that local laws will not unreasonably restrict or regulate farm operations within an agricultural district unless there is a threat to public health or safety.
Right, and the key
Section
is,
305.
and the key is unreasonable, and if you've never applied to your town, what zoning board, planning board, town board, if you've never said, hey guys, I need some relief from that, how can you say any requirement is unreasonable?
And that
That's why we have a commissioner of ags and markets. And
I agree with you 1,000%.
and this is exactly why the guy from the USDA told me to sell my land. That's why. My heart and soul is in this property, and it's the only reason I'm
But
continuing.
again, Dr. Hanovich, can you give me, I'm just asking now, specifics, what is the town preventing you from doing? Where's the problem?
It's not about the specifics from the town. I'll give you one specific. I emailed the town the moment I bought the property, asked about their farm stuff, because that was our intent.
Okay.
Before everything went through, no problem. Everything was great. We continue to go through things, everything's great. I get shipping containers, which I spoke to them about, I didn't have it in writing. I spoke to the town, said, no problem, get shipping containers, that sounds like a great idea.
For storage?
For storage, and for animal huts. I bought an excavator so I can move the containers around instead of building up structures everywhere, because I wasn't sure how the layout's gonna be. And guess what, as soon as I randomly get a violation, it's the moment I applied to be an ag district for shipping containers. And then I had to justify why I had shipping containers, and then magically after we got denied, the violations no longer a thing. That's the kind of thing that I was getting bullied by my town over shipping containers, which I talked to them about. And I'm just trying to build a farm.
Which coincidentally, the town itself uses for storage.
I was at the meeting getting denied from being a farm application because of shipping containers, and in the parking lot that I walk out to, there's 4 shipping containers. They're granted different zoning, I understand all that, but it was just, I had shipping containers that I asked for.
And shipping containers are a common item at farms because it's inexpensive, but high-quality storage, it's waterproof, it's protected from the elements, and farmers use them exactly for that reason.
And Rich, my town supervisor, he's a really nice guy. I shook his hand, he came to my house, I got him more votes this past election. I had no issues with Rich at all, none. But then we ran into these issues, and I don't know how I'm supposed to defend them. I have to get a lawyer involved. And that's what these rules and this ag district is all about, is giving the small guy a chance to be able to do their right to farm as the town code sees fit, and not just how their town supervisor feels is right that week, and whether I get permission to do things or not.
Do you have any other
That's-
cases?
That's my main, I don't want to get into specifics with Rich and other things. That is my one example that
That's
just,
what you're looking for relief from?
that example.
That's one example, but he does not have the ability to predict the future as to what is the next shoe to drop. Whereas if he was in an agricultural district, he wouldn't have to worry about that, because he'd be protected under state statutes.
Nancy?
I do hope that this resolution can be revised and fine for next year for you to apply. I hope that you can come to a compromise with the town and understand the skepticism about allowing this. I mean, I did hear you present, I heard your wife present, I think it was your farm, being concerned that you have all these hens and you can only have 2
Those are
roosters.
neighboring farm.
Okay.
But
I mean, I'm not a fan of roosters in my backyard,
Yeah.
so if you're gonna get 10 roosters to take care of, 200 hens, I'm gonna be angry. So there has to be a compromise. And I get it, and hopefully we can revise this resolution, and you can work with the town to find a happy medium before that. Because it is a residential, I get it, but we have to allow farming. We're
I
gonna be in
mean,
big
the
trouble if we
alternative is
don't.
I sell the property to the people that are pushing me around that want
And we need
land,
housing.
and then we,
Then you have a lot more
Development.
houses.
The state would love that.
But you're drying up farmland,
Right.
and then, at some point in time, if that happens repeatedly throughout the state, you don't have food production.
Are you growing crops on your
We're
farm?
doing livestock.
You're doing livestock. Can you be specific?
We have Highland cows, we have Zebu cows, we have goats, and we have donkeys. So the donkeys are part of the equine breeding program for protection of some of the other animals. The livestock sales of the Highland cows is our main income. And we did close to 6 figures last year on Highland production. Like, it's not a small farm. I'm not trying to
So-
get tax breaks.
And just so for everybody, this is breeding stock. You're
Breeding
not,
stock.
you're not
He's not
getting
raising
meat.
beef to
You're not
slaughter.
raising-
He's
Correct.
raising
We're
so
selling
breeders to
stock
sell to other
others
people.
that do that. And Highland cow, I picked specifically because it's from Scotland. They're a breed that loves rocky terrain, which is what Putnam County has and what our land has. And we called it Ridge Ranch because
You're
it's on a
ridge.
ridge. And, the town was very worried about the agritourism, and yes, we do things and have people come and see the animals, but our main source of income is and always will be livestock. That's what we're doing. The tourism side of things is something I talked to Rich, and I thought he'd be super happy with, because it's a way to get people to come to local places to eat, and we always send people to like the farmhouse by our house, and he was, last time I talked, seemingly happy about what we were talking about. He was afraid that we were going to be doing Tilly Foster style events at our farm, and we talked about that not being a fit for what our goals are.
But agritourism is one of the enumerated permitted uses at a farm, and in his case, it's a minor aspect of it, but they do bring people to see the cows, and they're unusual looking cows. Nobody has any other questions?
Can we clarify, because you brought up a good point, I think the public has the misconception that people get a tax break if they're in the ag district, and that's just not,
Two separate
That's
things.
Yeah.
Mutually exclusive
but
events.
I think we really need to clarify that.
Right.
Well, I mean, the public is gonna listen to what they're gonna listen to, but this is not giving farmers a tax break.
Two separate.
Two completely separate. Well,
Do you currently get an ag exemption?
We did not apply for it yet. I just.
Sounds like you
it
eligible.
sounds like you're eligible, yeah.
He may in the future, but he hasn't currently.
Our main focus was just getting into the ag district, so we had the support of New York State and USDA and everything else that comes with.
Right,
Not
except this is the catch-22. You're going around your town, you're coming to the county for relief, and is it reasonable, is it unreasonable? I wish you the best, and I hope you can work things out with the town.
That's
But
not
that's why
fair
the
to
USDA
say he's
has
going
that
around the town. That's not fair that you just said that.
Excuse
This
me,
is a
Dr.
mechanism-
Hanovich, have you ever applied for a special use permit?
But that's,
I
that's not
Do you know
part of
what
the
an ag
ag
district
district.
is?
Yes, I do know what an ag district is.
Why would you belittle him by saying
I'm
he's
not
going around the
belittling him.
town? This is a tool that he has to provide farming in Putnam County. And you just said he's going around the town. That's just total mischaracterization.
The whole purpose of unreasonable restrictions, that's the whole purpose. And when you read the history, Nancy, it says that towns are passing laws which make it increasingly difficult for operating farms to farm. That doesn't seem to be the situation in this particular case.
We don't have those laws on the books, and we don't mischaracterize people for going through a process that's available to them. And that's what he's doing.
And I did give you, I don't know how many examples I need, but shipping containers, I'm a veterinarian. I'm a very busy man. I run a metal fab company, very busy man. I run a farm with my wife. I want to have a farm for my child to grow up on. And that one thing is way more than I should have dealt with. That's one thing that required me getting involved with a lawyer, taking off work. Do you know what it's like when you call your vet and you can't get in? It's from things like this. I worked super hard to be able to provide great care every day, and I had to take multiple days off to go deal with a shipping container violation, which was just a beating of my chest saying, hey, you need to come talk to me about this. I wasn't doing anything unreasonable, and it was just, you want multiple examples, that's one example that just is unfair. I asked about these things, and then I still got bullied about it. And I'm not trying to go around the town. I love my town. I fell in love with Patterson the moment my brother moved there and I bought the house from him. I want to be supportive of my town. I want to have a landmark for Patterson to enjoy for 100 years from now.
And
I'm not trying to go around the town.
There's nothing in the law that requires the farm to first have been the victim of an unreasonable act. It's a proactive, in advance protection, saying if you get into this district, you're protected. So it's like people buy insurance. You buy insurance before the fire happens, not after. It's the same type of thing. You get into the ag district before the fire, so you're protected.
I don't want this is not about, and other farms that I've talked to, it's not about going around the town. It has nothing to do with going around the town. It's having the support of the USDA, which set up this program for a reason. And when I talk to the representative and he says that Putnam County is the worst, it's because people, I think, in this county just don't understand what that really means, and what the program means, and what it gives to a farm to have that back and that support. It's not a loop around to get around. I'm not trying to get out of my taxes. I didn't even apply for the exemption. I'm just here trying to set up my land to be a farm for the next 100+ years and the next 200 years after that. I just don't understand the resistance. I get it, but I think it's more than me trying to get around the town. It's not that. That's not the thing. I'm still farming. Me and my wife get to enjoy the farm every day. It's not that Neil or anyone else is stopping me from farming. It's not that. That's not what this is about.
You have a comment?
No, I think that this conversation has a way of getting into the weeds pretty quick, when for me it just stops at what the land use, what the land requirements are, which are pretty clear. And like I said, just some of the basics, like, the seeker review, the 50% rule, the operating a commercial enterprise in a residentially zoned parcel. These are things that the butters could bring to us. I mean, we have people just as mad on the other side saying, I didn't sign up for this. I bought a nice house here and now I'm living next to a farm. It's not what I bargained for. And once they're in the district, it really does limit what the town and the neighbors can do. So I think that alone, you just have to be careful,
Well, bottom line is, we gotta get this right.
you gotta be careful. Well, yeah, and you gotta be careful, because again, and I think I brought this up last time I was here, I said, you're not in a good spot, because you're gonna come across, we haven't even really gotten into the proximity to a wetland yet. So that's like a whole nother thing. So people say, oh, you're being hard on farming. Well, there's a way to look at this, saying you're being hard on the towns. The towns could say that, and then there's the environmental concerns. Farms are not pollution free. In fact, there's a whole arm of the Soil and Water Conservation District program aimed at, it's the Agricultural Environmental Management Program. There's a whole program set up to try and mitigate the pollution from farms. So it's not like they don't pollute, they do. So again, more reason to be careful on the local level. And I just have a bad feeling about going over the heads of the locals on this. The towns and the neighbors have very little in the way of options if the farming gets out of control. And again, I tend to go back to the basics, like what about a site plan? I don't understand building on this scale without, or building out on this many acres without at least something. To have them go through the whole process without any documentation, which again, we have to file the seeker for the state. So the state really only gets the two things. They get the thing, well, did you pass it? Okay, where's the seeker? And it's a full environmental review. It's a type 1 action, which is involved. So we need to think about that. So just signing off on 100 and something acres without a seeker review puts us in a tough spot.
Yeah, what's the closest neighbor proximity to your farm?
There's one house that's next to our driveway that's, it's connected to the driveway, and that's, after that, 600-700 feet is probably the next, maybe 800 feet is the next closest house.
And you spoke about pesticides and pollution, but I think that is, the pollution would be due to, if people were farming, I feel, food or any type of that for the pesticides. I don't think you have that issue.
And
Because it's just,
the first thing I did when I moved in was I hired Whitelands, Whitetail Habitat Solutions, which is a whole business designed on creating better habitat for wildlife. So for every area that I touch for farming, I'm trying to improve other areas for the property, so that way that we actually get quail back, pheasant, and things that you just don't see in Putnam County anymore because we don't have land for it. And that's the stuff where I hate when I hear that people are discrediting me for polluting the land. I'm a veterinarian. I love animals, and I would give everything to protect what I have and continue to expand the habitat that I have. The alternative is selling it to one of the people that have made the offers, and then it gets developed. And then what are we not? We're polluting the whole mountain. 100+ years of just a beautiful mountain is just now housing. And it's crazy to think that that's the alternative. I either sell my property, or I keep doing what I'm doing here and trying to plead with you guys to see our side as the farming community on something. And I don't know how long I can do this for both time and energy and money.
About how many animals do you have?
We're 50 to 75, depending on babies that are being born. We have 50 main, and then when we have babies, it almost does.
And do you have manure storage facilities in a program?
So I don't have a program, and I use it to store, the manure is used, I have a manure spreader that I let it compost, and then I spread on the areas that are becoming silvopastures for the next fields down the road for the property. Again, trying to build soil quality in the best possible way. And I have soil samples, that I've tested myself, and using rye and the rotations of crops that I've put into these areas is greatly increased in the short time that I've been there, and I've seen a big bump in deer and other wildlife using it, which has been something that I've been very proud of.
Tony?
Thank you. You had mentioned a site plan that you would like to see a site. Is that part of the requirement now, currently in the application process?
No.
No.
No, ma'am.
So that can be
Just so
changed?
you're aware of what a site plan is, it's very expensive because you have to have a topo at, depending on the town, maybe at, was it 2-foot increments, boundary and everything's got to be delineated, everything you've got to show on there, and then you're going to have to, typically in a site plan, you're going to have to show your stormwater management. I mean, it gets very, very expensive.
Well, you could say, though, that it is required on our level, because that, we need that to fill out the full, to do the full PAF. In order to do the type 1 action, we need some documentation. We need to see something.
You don't need to see a site plan.
To do a full environmental review?
You're not going to have to do a site plan.
And just for like a rough cost, to just get a survey of my property, that'd be $40,000 to $50,000 just for the survey. And that's why this program is involved. I mean, we made $100,000 last year. That's half of that gone. My $25,000 in hay and other things that I need to keep the farm running, gone. I would have to fold the shop. And that's the exact reason that the ag program New York State put into place, and why Putnam County is the only one that has trouble, is it's not seeing why a farmer would want to not have to go through a site plan for something like that.
Because other counties do the seeker review before it gets to us, before it gets to the legislature. And I think it's important to point out again what an ag district is. It's the purpose of the ag district is to encourage the continued use of farmland for agricultural production. It's a combination of incentives and protections to forestall the conversion of farmland to non-agricultural uses. So the purpose of why New York State and across the country they established these districts is to encourage farming. So obviously we have to come to a happy medium, and to throw this away, to throw these ag districts away, which is what we're talking about when we're talking about having site plan reviews and all of that. It's just we might as well just not have ag districts then. They're just.
I think we're all, I am personally in favor of farming. I'm in favor of what you're doing. And I think we need more farmland. I think we need to eat food from where we are, and meat and poultry and everything else needs to be close to where we live. But I think our task here is to reconcile this resolution. And how do we get there? How do we get there? I think that's the most important thing is figuring out how we support farming in Putnam County, and we're just do something with this resolution and reconcile it with the state law, so that we make sure we continue farming in Putnam County. And we're just at a loss. I appreciate everything.
Again, we're not telling them they can't farm.
Pardon?
We're not telling them they can't farm.
But you're now asking
But you
for a
can,
site
so
plan.
for example, if you have 200 and how many acres, is there 100 acres in there that's over 50%, and maybe that 100 acres goes into the ag district? There's got to be a way to maybe segment it out so that you can get in there somehow. I would hate to lose, a passionate farmer like you in Putnam County. I think it's important to keep here.
And I'm trying to embrace Putnam County. Like, we were on Putnam County's website for tourism and farms and stuff today, but then I'm here tonight begging.
There's a picture of me on there.
Begging for the chance
and
to.
Come here and it's.
Mrs. Hunter is
Sorry.
over there.
Thank you.
And you know, for,
You can finish.
you know, so I just hope that we can all find a way
We
to
can
not
find
see this
balance.
as the farms trying to circumvent towns. We're not trying to circumvent towns. I'm trying to farm, I want to work with Rich and Neil, and I don't have a problem with that. I just can't afford, and all the other, I'm here representing most of the other farms, because they can't even afford to hire someone like George to come and help me talk to you guys. We just want to farm, and we're not trying to circumvent the town. I wasn't even trying to get around the taxes. And yes, I would like to enjoy that. It is a definite benefit. But that wasn't even the goal of the farm. That's not the reason I want the land. And I want to keep that land farmland. I don't want to see it go into developments like I've been offered. And that whole thing that they put out is for that exact reason. You guys have a chance to help me not have to go down that pathway.
Yeah.
I have an ignorant question because I'm not a farmer, so bear with me on this one. The animals on the land help enrich the soil quality, correct? So how long would it hypothetically take? Is it something that is achievable for you to have a farm and have achievable soil qualities by having the animals move around and rotate and enrich the soil?
It's the slope.
So
Slope's the problem.
it's not achievable on a certain portion of the
And these maps are all based on Google images of what the land is like and topographic maps from,
geomap.
it has nothing to do with my soil and my property. You go and take a sample from where the cows were last season, I mean, I planted grass seed and it instantly grows and it's the greenest green you could possibly have. It is way better than what the soil map shows, but that's not what's represented on the map.
So is it out of the question to go and test the soil ourselves?
Well, we've, I've actually suggested that, what we use, or what the online tool that the county uses to get the soil reports is not sophisticated. And there are other, if you want to go get I think one of the applicants, I suggested that they I gave them the contact at the NRCS, who might be able to help put together their own soil survey.
And that would be acceptable to us as taking something from an outside agency?
If they come to you with something that says they've got somebody with some authority, like the NRCS.
For everyone at home, who is the NRCS?
The National Conservation Resource Service. So it's a federal program. And if they were to come to you with something and come back with a survey that says this qualifies as soil groups 1 through 6, then you might have something.
But would that be acceptable to, is that something that would be acceptable to us as a body or consideration that we could, look into?
If I got something back from the NRCS, the people who put together the website,
right,
and they say this is good, well, we could look at it, we'd say, all right, well, it's good with you, it's good for me.
Okay, so that's...
So I've also made suggestions. I know it sounds kind of far out, but I've suggested that people do lot line adjustments. Do a lot line adjustment on the best land that you have, and then you submit for that parcel. So, so there are things that we can experiment with.
I'm not trying to skirt the system, I'm just trying to figure out,
Yeah,
being
no.
ignorant
You
to
gotta
farming and trying to learn through this whole process and find out what we can do to help the residents who do want to.
Gotta get
be
creative.
included, so-
Yeah, I mean, but this again goes back every time, frequently when you bring up the site plan, I always have the same response. Well, I don't want to do that. That's too expensive. It takes too long. I can't do it. And actually, it's one of your better tools for navigating this process. Is if you have something, show me how you're going to rotate. Show me what you're going to clear. I mean, I don't remember which applicant it was, but they were telling me how they were going to clear 8 acres this summer.
That was Putnam Valley.
One of their, well, no, it wasn't Rush. It was one of the other ones. They said, well, yeah, we're going to clear 8 acres this summer. And I didn't, well, the bat ban, you can't clear 8 acres all at once in the middle of the summer. So that to me is like, well, we need to start communicating about this. Now, something that if you were to put together some kind of site plan, well, then you would work that into the site plan. And
And I'm going to cut you off on that one because that was us
Was
And
it you?
I called the town, I had the town come out, they reviewed my logging plan with my logger that I hired. And this is a perfect example of stepping on toes and needing help, is that I have pictures of my trail cams of the town walking, and all the trees are marked from my logger. And then he comes and is upset about the plan, that the town and my logger, I didn't even know the specifics of what they chose to do, but that's what they chose to do. And now I have to defend myself that that's an okay thing to do, and that my forestry department and the town set that up. So this is this is the second
So
one
true, yes.
that I was felt like I did something wrong. I hired a forestry guy that did this for school, and this is what he does for New York State. And I contacted the town through him and had them come out and check. And now I need to jump through hoops for bats that I didn't even know about. I don't want to hurt bats. I have bat boxes up in my house. I freaking love bats. But this wasn't part of anything that I was aware of, that now I have to jump through a hoop to make the town feel better about something that they came and agreed to. And this is why I'm here. This is a second one. I'm just trying to be reasonable about our side of things that you guys don't get to see.
Through the chair? Oh.
Yes.
So, can you just tell, so the public knows, if something is approved and they don't have the soil requirement, but we did approve it, what's the repercussions on the Putnam County Legislature or Putnam County as well?
I'm sorry, say,
What repercussions would there be?
if we went ahead and approved something
Yes.
that was in violation of, technically in violation of state law?
Yeah.
You have an impressive list of people who would have standing to bring an Article 78. You would have all the abutters, as Chairman Yonke mentioned, you'd have the abutters of that parcel and possibly all the parcels. And then you'd have the municipality. And so you're opening yourself up to another round of potential litigation.
Well, obviously, we need to absolutely consider this and delve into it a little bit more.
Is there a way that you guys can contact another county? Like, I know other counties, New York State is the same across the whole state. It is not good soil quality compared to other places. It's just that's the layout of what New York State is. There are many other counties that have the same topographic amount of farm. Like in Putnam, we're less than 20% have what is required, and most of that is developed at this point. So there's got to be some.
That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is when the ag district was established, Putnam, and so far, we're the only county where we said any place in the county can be considered to the ag district. All the other counties that I've seen so far, it's a specific set-aside area where everything is contiguous. But we definitely have to consider this. Dr. Hanovich, we really appreciate you coming. I don't want to cut you off if you have anything else.
Thank you.
George, good seeing you.
Thank you.
So we're going to continue at a later time.
Do we have a plan for what we're gonna do? If I may?
I think we're going to try and develop one. We don't have a plan as of now. We're going to take some input from any interested party.
We have a farm board meeting next Wednesday. In fact, we took August off, and so we're going to have a meeting with, I'm assuming most of the board members will show up, and we're going to have to shake this out with them, and I'm sure a lot of them will see this, and this will be a continuation of the conversation from July. We'll see where, that I think will be the start.
If I may, it's probably too late for the next meeting, but if we can get somebody from Ag and Markets from the state to attend that meeting, one of those Ag District meetings to advise, or one of our committee meetings. I think it would
Just
be
reach out
wise
to
to
him.
talk to the commissioner.
This isn't new, and I know we want to move on, but this isn't really new. This happens with a lot of districts, with a lot of counties. I've been having this conversation with Jeff
Keough.
Keough at Ag and Markets, and one of my other supervisors, Ben Luskin. I mean, we've been having this conversation for a long time. It's just, anyway.
Thank you.
I hope you come back next year and get your.
Okay, moving along, next
It's
is
not even equal, so. it's not
we're
even-
looking for an approval for a budgetary amendment 24A080, which is guardrail damage. This is Matt Bruno doing an excellent job and recovering damages. There's no fiscal impact on this. So I'd like to move this forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, Neil, you can, okay, this is budgetary amendment 24A085 for the Soil and Water Conservation District. This is to, okay, we're moving funds to purchase a piece of equipment to assist the town of Putnam Valley to repair their Lake Peekskill culvert system. And we're looking here at $77,000. That's what we're appropriating, and you're transferring the $77,000 from,
Well, 6,000 comes from what's called Part B money,
okay,
and then the remainder's coming from the Soil and Water Trust.
okay, so that's why there's gonna be no fiscal impact for this year and next year.
Correct.
Any questions, concerns? Okay, thank you, move forward, second by Legislator Crowley to approve, to move this forward. All those in favor? Aye. Item 7 is approval of budgetary amendment 24A087 for Parks and Recreation, water and sewer charges. So this is DPW can do some upgrades, and there's also some other general costs. Looks like you're taking it from general, okay, from water and sewer, and you're decreasing, you're moving it from contingency, moving it to water and sewer.
Correct.
We have Commissioner Fieri and Deputy Commissioner Bellucci. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you. Any comments on this?
This is specifically for the UV disinfection system, for the sensor upgrades, along with the electric bill increases, which are part of the operating budget anyway. A level transmitter for a sludge mixer, and a desktop analyzer for pH and dissolved oxygen probes.
This is all for
I don't want to bore you with all the specifics.
This is all for the county wastewater treatment plant located at the golf course.
Correct, yeah, these are standard upgrades for wastewater.
Any questions of the committee? Any of the legislators? Okay. I make a motion to move this forward.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 8 is fund transfers, 24T280 from Putnam County Soil and Water District funds. This is you, Neil, real quick. You're moving 6,000 from Soil Special Services.
Right, well, that was the 6,000 that I mentioned,
Yeah.
coming from the Part B money.
Okay.
Comes directly from Ag and Markets. It's held in a separate account.
Got it. Okay.
I just have a question. How are fish cradles costing $6,000 in installation?
Well, they're not, no. I think the invoices and the installation, and then a little bit of soil and water time, which we're allowed to bill for, came to $4,900, something like that.
$3,750 for the habitat structures?
Correct. And then the suggestion was, I had originally put it in for that number, for the, I forget, the 49,000. And the advice was to put in for the whole 6,000, because whatever we don't spend, we have to send back. So rather than come back here and have to do it again, just, that's all we're gonna spend of that this year, so let's take it all out. We'll give the Kirk Lake people their reimbursement, and the rest goes back to Ag and Markets. And then, actually, we'll run into this with the soil and water, the soil and water legislators will be doing another round. We apply for it in the fall, and it gets approved, and then it has to happen between in 2025. So
Okay.
it's just a yearly
One more
rhythm.
question. Can any of this conservation project money be used for our failing lakes or algal blooms? And is there any of this money that can be used for that?
Well, that's what the first one was, when we went over the 20,000. Culvert was actually kind of an interesting project because Putnam Valley had slated for, had gotten, we had an agreement with Putnam Valley to expand a retention pond, and then they got hit by that storm last year. So we really couldn't, the soil and money, Part C money is kind of a strange animal, because you can't just buy anything. It has to have something that serves the program. So I told Supervisor Anabi, I said, well, I can't buy you a culvert, but we can give you money to put in a better culvert. And that's why what we did was we gave them the money to go from a standard culvert to a hydro separator style that is a lot more expensive, but much less gets into the lakes. Much less sediment getting into the lakes. So I don't seem to be capable of a short answer, but we have another similar project coming up in Mayapack, hopefully next year too. We're going to do that again. So that's a good part. It is a good Part C project.
Yeah, the Continental Village Lake, the Cortland Lake.
Oh, right. Their issues.
It's been closed pretty much all summer.
Yeah.
Going to make a motion to move item 8, fund transfer 240-280 to audit. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Tommy, this is you. You want to take some capital project 19 CP 06. You want to use the reserve fund for architectural engineering services. Looks like you want to hire somebody here.
Yes, thank you. So most of these are refilling funds that we utilize specifically on projects that come up quickly. So you don't have time to go out and vet, a lot of it we do in-house. So it would be an engineering or an architectural review that we would get a report on, and then we can do our due diligence in-house.
Okay. Any questions? Committee? Other legislators? Okay. So I'd like to move. Yes? Paul?
Who's the architect or engineer that we use
We
for
have
these services?
20-something on call now. So,
Can you just call somebody, you pick one and call one, or you have to put them out?
for instance, like if we look at the front of the courthouse, there's probably 3 qualified for that one. So we would put it out to those 3.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to move forward and approve item 9. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we're at item 10, which is an amendment for approval 19 CP 09, Capital Reserve Fund. And this is for roof repair. And there's also one question we have on this. There's $45,000 of additional funding for Schweiger Hall roof.
Right, so that CP was from 19, so a little before our time. I know that came out with the anticipation of being able to repair Schweiger Hall for $45,000. Upon further review, no contractor wanted to touch it at the time. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm pretty sure that was the story behind it. It wouldn't comply with New York State energy codes, and then also they wouldn't guarantee the work. It's kind of an interesting building. I think we're going there tomorrow. Whoever's going. It looks like an engineering, almost like a college engineering project. That in one aspect it's very cool, in another aspect it's very difficult to repair. You'll be able to see in person, it'll answer a lot of those questions tomorrow. But the big part was not getting a guarantee from any contractor for the county to move forward. And again, just a repair would not have brought it up to stand. It was a significant enough repair that it had to qualify for energy codes, and it would not have met that either, so.
Okay, so I
So the
understand.
45,000 was a good effort, but
And it was never spent.
never spent.
Okay, so I just want to have clarification, is you're asking to add 100,000 to the same 2019 capital project. Will any of this be going to Schweiger Hall?
No, no, this is specifically for county buildings, to try and repair. You know, right now, we've got, which you've already approved, some of the stockpiles, roof repairs. By doing this now saves the county, 20 years of costs by doing small repairs.
Questions of the committee, legislators? Like to move forward, number 10, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 11 here on the agenda is amendment for 20 CP01 Capital Reserve Fund. Okay, Tommy and Joe, this is for access control.
Yeah, so all your buildings have swipes, the vast majority of it, moving a door, repairing a door, and now a lot of it's gone to video imaging, so that'll continue. We just finished the BOE. That's a prime example of when you move an office, the swipes had to go with it. Obviously Democrat, Republican swipes and all that good stuff. So this will continue, as we upgrade the buildings.
Right, I'm just looking to see if there's a dollar amount associated. Okay, an additional 20,000.
Yep.
Okay, questions of the committee? All legislators? Okay. Move forward, item 11 here. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 12, approve an amendment 20 CP04 Capital Reserve Fund for sidewalk, stairs, safety repair, safety throughout the county. Do you want to elaborate on any particular locations?
It is self-explanatory, and really it's to try and avoid any litigation. When we see problems, we try and get ahead of them. Both in any place where there's a walkway, so it may not just be concrete, it may be a blacktop.
Right, we're adding 20,000, where's it coming from?
That's coming from the, yep.
I'm sorry, Joe?
25,000.
I'm sorry, thank you, 25,000. And where's it coming from?
The capital reserve.
Just capital reserve, okay, thank you. Any questions of the committee, all legislators? Like to move this for approval, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda item 13 is to amend capital project 22 CP01. Again, capital reserve fund, and this is for flooring repair throughout the county for an additional $75,000.
Yep, again, this is very similar, the first thing is safety, right? And then obviously anything that just looks tattered or disgusting gets swapped out, so. And then we're doing small work orders within buildings. We try to take a look at what needs to be replaced, and that's where that comes out of.
Okay.
We've done repairs at county office building, Department of Social Services, personnel, EOC, Kohler, and DMV just this year, so it's quite the...
Any questions from the committee? Fellow legislators, legislator Sage.
I have a question. What's the timeline on all of these repairs? Is this just going to be throughout the rest of the year, or is the timeline for the next?
This is just a pool, this is just a fund, that's where we would go from, right?
That could be
Otherwise-
throughout this year and go into next year?
Yeah, we actually we've probably hit, I'd say, 40 different different rooms in departments this year alone, just on carpet. And a lot of, the good thing about here is you get your bang for your buck. So as you see, these are carpet squares, so
Yeah.
we install most of the stuff we do ourselves. Only time we really outside contracts, when it's too invasive, where you've got to remove people out of their offices and things like that, so they can work on weekends, the outside contractors. But the vast majority is done during work hours with our people, so you get them in the bank for buck.
We do have a couple proposed projects that we're addressing in the near future immediately, and use it as a program access moving forward to address certain areas as needed, so.
I just want to say thank you, because everything's starting to look really good.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to see these improvements. Our employees deserve this, and it's really nice to see that you guys are taking such good care of our buildings, so thank you.
Yeah, project. Okay, I'd like to move forward. Any other questions? Okay. I'd like to move forward with approval to amend the resolution, adding 75,000 to 22 CP01. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
14 is an amendment for 23. We're getting current here. CP13, capital reserve funds for doors, frames, hardware repair throughout the county. This is to add $25,000.
Yep, again, this is something you can, depending on the door and the mechanism, you could spend $5,000 on the door, so, and this is just upgrading what's been hanging for the last 100 years in some buildings, so, just upgrades.
Committee, fellow legislators? Okay. I'd like to move forward for approval to amend and add 25,000 to 23 CP13. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody, and we would like to invite anybody who's free tomorrow. We're having a safety day at the Veterans Park for all our DPW and then the towns and villages of people coming also. So it's shared services, and Local 60 is also coming. Food trucks at 11:30. Make a day out of it. So you're welcome to come. Thanks.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good work.
And item 16, I'm sorry, item 15, thank you, Rob, is for us approval for the county to act as a lead agency for SECRA. This has to do with the radio telecommunications project. It's been communicated to me that the town of Phillipstown has been contacted and they're completely in favor of this. Commissioner Barroso?
Yes, this facility would actually be through a lease. We'd be leasing the highway facility by the salt shed on Fishkill Road for construction of a tower for the B911 system. So there is a resolution before you for consideration to declare lead agency, to start an environmental review. Notice will go out to the towns, to the village, any other involved and interested agencies.
Committee? Fellow legislators?
This was a super challenging process, and I want to thank you for getting us here, and Tom and everybody who's involved with this radio project. It also involves Open Space Institute, and I want to thank them for giving us the approval to, use their easement. I saw the Deputy Commissioner of the Bureau of Emergency Services and the Deputy Sheriff today going around my neighborhood testing the new system, so it was very exciting to see that. And I can't wait until it's all in place.
Okay. So, move for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Being that we have no other business, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Aye.